Welcome to another Music Gear Monday. I'm Carl Carell, and I hope you've been having a good week. I've been doing a lot of live streaming over on the Twitch channel. That's been fun, so make sure to hop on there and catch us every Monday and Wednesday, and then also Clubhouse on Mondays for a little bit of chats about music gear. MIDI controllers, there's a ton of MIDI controllers out there, but if you want to get very specific, this APC Mini is perfect for your Ableton Live usage. Today we're looking at the Akai APC Mini 25. I've had this keyboard for some time now, and I use this very often, especially when traveling. It's one of the little keyboards that I throw in my bag and I'm able to use in airports and hotels and different things like that. It is a pretty small but pretty advanced MIDI controller because of the way that you can use it with Ableton Live. Recently I got asked if you can adjust the velocity sensitivity on this APC Mini. What velocity sensitivity is basically how hard or soft you tap on a key. The softer you tap, the softer the volume. Harder you tap, the louder the volume. And that was a really good question, but I never even thought about adjusting those settings inside of this MIDI controller. The short answer is right now, currently, there's really no way to do it internally. But the good news is that inside of your recording software, I would imagine if you're getting this controller, you're using Ableton. Inside of Ableton, you have a way to adjust the velocity. I'm gonna show you that right now. So I went through the manual just to double check and make sure there was nothing that I was missing, and turns out that no, there is no adjustable velocity sensitivity inside of the actual programming of the MIDI controller. But if you go into Ableton and you look at the specific instrument you're playing, so right now I'm playing a drum rack I have set up here. Any sample or instrument that you're playing has a velocity, and that's this little knob right here. So if I were to zero out that knob and set the velocity to 0, that means no matter how hard or soft I hit this key, no matter how hard or soft I hit that key, it's going to stay at the same velocity. It's not going to go up or down. But you can adjust those velocity settings on pretty much any of the instruments inside of Ableton. You're going to find a velocity knob, or you can go into the macros and affect the velocity separately. Looking a little more at the APC Key 25, you have your typical layout here, just like you were looking at Ableton, where you can launch clips. So you have the ability to launch, stop clips, solo clips, arm different channels. I can also navigate between my session here. So if I want to, do a whole set with a bunch of different clips, I'm able to navigate up and down and around through the session. You have built-in sustain. So if you are using keys or piano, you have this little button here that you can hold down. You have octave up and octave down. You have a play and a pause button here, so if my session is playing, I can play and pause it here. I can also go into my sequence window and I can record with this button here. These knobs up here, you can actually assign these in Ableton to pretty much anything, but right now, as they come out of the box, they're set to your volume controls. So this guy right here is going to be set to the furthest left. So your top left, that's going to be set to the furthest left. So if we look in Ableton, you can see the far left volume going up and down, and that is because I am turning this knob here. These are your volume controls, or you can MIDI map inside of Ableton to pretty much anything. So inside of Ableton, if you go up to the top right, you have a key and you have a MIDI. If you click on MIDI, you could pretty much tap on anything and it's going to give you the option to map it to anything on your MIDI controller. But be aware, if you do map a knob or button to a specific device or encoder or level or switch, it's basically going to only be for that switch or encoder or volume or whatever you set it for. So if I click on this send right here, if I click on send A, turn this encoder so that MIDI signal is mapped specifically to send A. So now if I go back up here to MIDI and I unclick it and I start turning that knob, you can see that A now is mapped to that knob. So I'm no longer able to use this knob for anything else other than send A, which could come in handy depending on what I'm doing. So if I'm doing a performance and I have some sort of effect on send A and I want to be able to do, you know, crazy effects with just that one knob, I can do that. Or say I want to set my crossfader inside of Ableton to one of these knobs, I could set this to my crossfader and now that will be my crossfader. So to undo that, I mean, you can simply press Control Z if this was the last thing you did, or you go up to MIDI, you click on MIDI, then over here in the right, you don't have this little window open, you open it up and you click on that specific knob, click on what it is, and then delete. Now you've gotten rid of that MIDI map. So now it should be back to normal. So now you see it's controlling the volume. Now we are back to normal. Really great controller, really lightweight, portable, comes with a little USB adapter on the side, little Kensington lock or locking mechanism. Not much more to it. Like I said, it's one of my favorite controllers. It's one that I do take on the road with me when I do go on the road and I need something in my backpack. It is very simple, basic controller set up to use with Ableton Live. You can still use this controller with other programs, but you're not going to be able to use a lot of this functionality up here. So a lot of the launching, clip view, solos, mute, all that special stuff, you're not going to be able to use that in programs like Logic or FL Studio or Reason, but you will be able to use the keys and maybe map some of the encoders or map some of the buttons depending on the programs that you're using. Anybody who has Ableton Live or wants to get Ableton Live, I recommend looking into this APC Mini because it actually controls Ableton Live very well. If anybody has any questions about the APC Mini, throw them in the comments below. We'll be making more videos in the next couple of weeks. Also be doing more streams on Twitch. I'll leave that in the description below as well. If you have a portable MIDI controller that you think is great, we should check out, throw it in the comments below. Maybe we'll throw it in our next Music Gear Monday. That's going to be it this week for Music Gear Monday. I'm Carl Carell. We'll catch you here next week. Peace.